I believe in the United States of America.
Several years ago, I came across a piece written by a distant cousin of mine. His name was William Tyler Page, and it was called The American's Creed. Back in the 1917, 1918, he won a contest with his writings, and it became adopted by the Congress to become our true American's Creed alongside the Pledge of Allegiance and the Star-Spangled Banner.
As a government of the people, by the people, for the people.
After the United States entered World War I, New York Commissioner of Education Henry Sterling Chapin advertised a nationwide contest for the creation of an American Creed. Baltimore Mayor John Preston added to the contest with a $1,000 prize, and they were joined by the Baltimore Board of Trade as a sponsor. By September of 1917, more than 3,000 entries were submitted. There were 50 finalists, and number 384 was selected. It was written by William Tyler Page of Maryland. Page said the American's Creed is a summing up, in 100 words, of the basic principles of American political faith. It is not an expression of individual opinion upon the obligations and duties of American citizenship or with respect to its rights and privileges. It is a summary of the fundamental principles of American political faith, as set forth in its greatest documents, worthiest traditions, and by its greatest leaders. The U.S. House of Representatives and its Speaker, Champ Clark, accepted the American's Creed on April the 3rd, 1918, and it was officially read by Dr. P.P. Claxton, the U.S. Commissioner of Education, in Congress. In reading the creed, Claxton described it in this way: "This is a creed very fitting to be announced at this time. And the good thing about it is that it is not new, but it sums up the fundamental faith of all the greatest of our leaders from the beginning until now. A creed that can be recommended not only by those who may come from the shores of Europe or Asia to make their home among us and become of us, but to those of our flesh and blood who come from the shores of eternity to grow up among and to take our places, and to carry on our institutional life, and to support and defend the country." Within days of winning the prize money, Page used it to buy World War I Liberty bonds, which he then presented to his church. A civil servant throughout his life, he became clerk of the House of Representatives in 1919. After 61 years of service to the American people at the Capitol, beginning at the age of 13 in 1881 as a congressional page, he would pass in 1942 while serving as minority clerk emeritus.
The words to me reflect truly what I think was in his heart, to evoke a spirit of patriotism when the words are heard. I wanted to, in this short film, to bring together people who care about our country and who remember the sacrifices made by the veterans of the Revolutionary War and all the wars that have come since, to bring that spirit through the words back to those who see and hear this recitation and the musical accompaniment with it.
When you're a wrangler on the movie set, the horses always come first, and you've got two groups of horses. You got the B group of horses, which are just for the extras or whatever, and then you got the A group, which is what the stars ride. Like Sam Elliott rode a black horse called Buttons in Gettysburg when I worked with him. Martin Sheen rode one called Will that was Traveler. But you had to get up. You had to be one of the first ones on the set because you got to get the horses ready to go. And usually around 6 o'clock, the horses got to be on the set, saddled up, ready to go. Plus, if anything happens, like, they come up lame or they throw a shoe, you kind of have to handle that while it's going on. And plus you have to make sure that the wranglers, make sure that the riders, the actors, can ride the horses and make sure that you have a horse that suits the actor so there's potentially not going to be any accidents. course, nothing is bomb-proof, but you want the best fit possible.
Whose just powers are derived from the consent of the governed.
Deputy Jeremiah, where there?
Come on in.
Been looking for you, Captain Robert. I've got dispatches and orders for you from General Washington.
Scouting for redcoats.
I've also got some Iroquois in looking for them.
We appreciate it.
Why don't you come with me over to the Hedrick cabin? We're going to go. You've been there before?
Long time. Long
Okay.
since.
We're going to take the north side of the ridge and come around.
Ain't been no redcoats in the past, but there sure was some Iroquois.
Look out for them.
Well, I guess my most notable one was A Patriot with Mel Gibson back in 2000. I was a wrangler for it. Another one was Gettysburg for Turner Network Television. I also did Rambo 3 way back in 1987. That was my first movie. And probably my favorite movie was a miniseries called Son of the Morning Star, which starred Gary Cole as George Armstrong Custer. And it was a documentary about the Little Bighorn based on the Evan S. Connell book. And I got to spend 6 weeks on the set in Montana with that one. That one's probably my overall personal favorite, and with the Patriot running close second.
A democracy in a republic.
The greatest challenge really is just making sure continuity. There's continuity between the different shots. Making sure every little piece in the background and the foreground is of the period. A lot of times you'll say rolling and then action, and then you'll catch, wait, that light switch is there. We got to move the shot, and that kind of takes up your time. When you're on a really tight schedule, that can be a big no-no. Luckily, we were able to get everything done very smoothly with the team that we had built up, and we got every shot taken, and it was a great time, a great professional experience.
A sovereign nation of many sovereign states.
I traveled for weeks on horseback through the mountains, hollers, up the ridges. I talked to trappers, preachers, farmers, a lot of good people who just wanted to be left alone, to live their lives, raise their families. The effort started small, a handful from here or there. Patriots. They gathered in from all across the ridges and the valleys. These brave frontiers men and women, like Johann and Betsy Emmert. Sergeant Ronald Hedrick is my right hand. Adam Sherrill.
I'll raise you the amount of a full crown.
Arnett Crockett. Young Greenberry Wilson. Samuel Green. And so many more. When my cousin George Washington wrote to me and asked me to help, sometimes I wonder whether I can muster the strength, raise these men up to the level to fight against the greatest fighting force the world has ever seen. Sergeant, form up the ranks.
March company, form up!
But then I spend time with them, and I know that the fighting spirit, the frontier will that runs through the blood of these men will see us through. We will endure. We will succeed. And we will win. Not all of us will return, but we all know that what we're doing will make a difference.
Shoulder your firearms!
I actually had the privilege of working with my brother. He was kind of my personal PA. He helped me just kind of the facilitating of the shots, making sure we got everything, kind of checking and making sure nothing was out of place, specifically continuity. And he himself is very interested in going into filmmaking. So it was a great experience to kind of take him under my wing and kind of show him and open the doors to this world. And I think he really enjoyed it. And his name is Evan Jackson.
I played Greenberry Wilson, and he was obviously a smaller character in the story, but it was fun just to kind of step into his shoes and really portray a man at that time. I mean, the fear that was going on at this time. I mean, everything that was happening, but yet still like the knowing that you're doing something that's beyond you. Just that in the character, and it was an absolute pleasure to do.
A perfect union, one and inseparable.
Jamie, here comes your dad.
Whoa. Thank you, Samuel.
Morning, Captain. To record a musical piece like this, you really want to watch this acted out and take it to heart. Try to come up with a melody and something that fit that era and fit that time, and to take the person back to that day, because it's very important to write a piece of music to go along with this, because a lot of people hearing a melody will take them back to a time as much as seeing the wardrobe and seeing the acting.
Established upon those principles of freedom, equality, justice, and humanity.
I brought together myself with one of my dear friends, guitarist, internationally known guitarist, Wesley Kreider. We wanted to create a musical piece to underpin the film, which would have an emotional connection with the audience, much like a tune like A Shogun's Farewell was for Ken Burns' Civil War series. I hope that this particular piece that we've constructed to underpin this series of scenes will touch people's hearts and stay with them, because that's what music is all about. It's to create and uplift and stay with us, a little piece to carry in our hearts.
In the American's Creed, I created my dress as well as some of Randall's pieces that he wore. We have to research and do the background for that era, which was set in the late 1700s. We do the styles, the colors, the fabric, and everything to bring that piece to life as closely as possible to what would have originally been in that era.
For which American patriots sacrificed their lives and fortunes. How's my Jamie?
He's fine.
Hello, dear. Hello, dear. Do you have a smile for your dog? You have a smile for your dog? Oh. Oh. Hey. Yo.
And I played Sister Sophie, which was the sister to Randall's character. Well, the only thing special I brought to it was just try to bring the character to life that was written.
It was very educational for me. Took me back to a time when it was stuff that you'd heard of in school and history, and then to get to see it played out really hit home and hit to the heart of what these soldiers and people in that day went through.
I therefore believe it is my duty.
All right, gentlemen, anyone with a jack or higher may open. I will see your crown and I will raise you a penny. You in?
I'm in. We'll match your crown, match your penny.
Penny to you?
If I don't have a crown or penny, I will see you and praise you that amount.
Gentlemen. It's a little bit rich for my blood. I think I'm gonna fold.
Too rich for mine. I'm gonna fold.
You win the pot, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. When we get where we're going, you're buying the drinks.
Of course.
One of the reasons that I enjoy being a reenactor is educating the public. When we're setting up camp and we're doing what we do, because most of the time we do it for the public at museums, historic sites and stuff for events. Part of it too is the research. I'm a history nerd, so I like doing the research, delving into what people were doing. I've always been interested in history, but as far as doing what I do, I lean more to why did the people do what they did. Some people call it experimental archaeology. Not everything is written down, so you'll get the tools and stuff that they had at the time and play with them and figure out what works best, and it may or may not have been how they did it, but to the best of my knowledge, it seems like what works for me and what I think is right.
17 April 1776. My son, I write these words to encourage and to tell you that you are the very dearest to me of all of God's creations. On this day, I leave you in loving hands. I do not take this absence lightly, in that the course of the events ahead may prevent me from seeing you grow to be a man. I may not be able to teach you to be the man I would guide you to become.
When I wrote the American Creed, I wanted to create a story about one of the patriots of the American Revolution and his effort to bring together a small militia to join George Washington's fight against the British. So in this piece, we're seeing bits and pieces of the scenes coming together of him traveling around the countryside, finding other like-minded patriots to come together in a militia, coming back home and saying goodbye to his son, as well as the patriot militia leaving to go off to war. And we even see him out in the field along with his militia as they fend off and attack the British. So this is a wonderful piece in a short series of scenes that give feeling of the American Revolution as we hear the story of Robert Shield as he writes a letter to his young son who he's leaving behind.
To support its Constitution.
General George Washington. Dear George, I hope this letter finds you in good spirits, and progress being made in all endeavors. Sister Sophie and little Jamie send their very best, as I will be leaving them from Ithaca in the morning. I'll be sending this letter ahead with Jeremiah, as I anticipate we will have a long journey to meet at the appointed time and place. I am using the approach previously discussed for the supply wagons from the region. I anticipate rendezvousing with ours within 1 day's march. I'll be bringing along the men that I could muster from our area. and anticipate picking up additional militia along the route from the people that we had previously discussed. I look forward to seeing you again and being in your presence. Until then, your cousin, Captain Robert Shields.
The challenges dealing with the flintlock guns are the same challenges they had 250 years ago, because the guns that we have are reproductions of the firearms of the period, so they have the same issues. If it's damp out, you might have issues with the powder, where the term keep your powder dry. If the powder's damp from rain or even just heavy dew and stuff, or fog in the air, can actually cause misfires. You have to deal with keeping your flint sharp, because you use a piece of stone as the ignition on these firearms, so they'll chip and break as you use them. They're a consumable commodity. That's why every soldier was required to carry 6 with them, so when during battle, if something happens, it's kind of a pain in the hind end if you're sitting there trying to reset your flint in the middle of a battle, but they were required to have them. It's just, at that time, that was the British infantry musket was the top of the line weapon of the day. That today, when we look at it, it's like, how did these guys fight with that? To us, it's hard to conceive, but at that time, that was the best thing that was available.
To obey its laws.
The one thing about this story that you really feel, especially when watching it, when acting through it, is these brave men they're fighting for what they believe in, and they believe in this country, and they believe in what it stands for, and they know what they want, and they are going to do whatever they can to get that. And just being able to live through that, and seeing what life is like right now. What people have suffered and gone through so that we could be free in this country. It really does mean the world to me, and it's just such a great story that I love being able to say that I helped tell.
To respect its flag.
Any consideration when you're doing a period piece is finding a location that suits it. We found a beautiful location in Chickamauga, Georgia, the Gordon Lee Mansion. Many of the rooms of the mansion are actually decorated in colonial style. There were some wonderful outbuildings that we were able to use. In fact, got several locations within a very short walk of each other, right on the grounds in downtown Chickamauga, Georgia. So it was a beautiful place for us to film. We were able to bring together such a wonderful group of men and women who gave their time to be a part of this project. Some wonderful reenactors who have spent a lifetime with a passion for making the Revolutionary and colonial period come to life. And they certainly helped us do that on this film, as well as some talented crew members who were costumers, as well as a great cinematographer and folks who helped us with being assistant directors, as well as all of the things going down to craft services. Great bunch of people who made it possible for us to bring the American's Creed together. And we thank each and every one of them.
And to defend it against all enemies.
The American's Creed is embossed in bronze plaques, featured in many types of displays, written into the hearts of many Americans, adored by organizations like the Daughters of the American Revolution. It's become an indelible part of the American fabric.
That's why, no matter what generation, the American's Creed should never be forgotten.